In the first 24 hours that Bernie Sanders announced that he is running as a Democratic candidate in 2020, he raised $5.9 million online, which is a lot of money. Agreed. Especially since he's not taking, PAC money, he's not taking money from giant donors. These are individual donors and they're small contributions, right? So to give you the details, Sanders' campaign raised $5.9 million from more than 225,000 individuals in the first 24 hours after his presidential announcement. And it's important to do comparisons here, right? Because if you buy into the mainstream media narrative, and I'm looking at you, NPR. I listened to your political podcast this morning. It was very disappointing. You would, I know. You would think that Bernie Sanders has no chance. He's a fringe candidate. His ideas are crazy. Besides which, some of his more popular ideas have been taken on by the establishment Democrats, so he should just give up.
Which one is it, by the way? Is it that they're crazy or that they've already been adopted?
Right.
NPR. Inquiring minds want to know.
And look, to be fair, I'm talking about their political podcast. It's not representative of the entire,
Yes, it is.
Okay, let's move on. You want to go back into CNN?
Okay.
I'm ready.
No, look,
I'm ready.
They're all biased against me.
I'm impressed, $5.9 million. That's actually more in the first 24 hours than that idiot who tried to build that wall.
I already like Steve.
Me too. Me too. Okay, so let's compare the first 24 hours that Bernie Sanders had and the first 24 hours that Kamala Harris had. Because Kamala Harris is gonna be real competition, right?
Yeah.
So according to reports, she raised $1.5 million from 38,000 donors online in the first 24 hours after she announced her campaign.
Yeah, so that is actually an impressive haul. I'm gonna compare it to what Bernie did in 2016 in a second, but I first want to brag. So last week I told you guys, because we tell you the news ahead of time, that Bernie Sanders would do this well, and it's for the same reason that I tell you every time I do these predictions. It's not rocket science. It's actually super simple. It's the bias of the mainstream media that prevents them from seeing things that are right in front of their eyes. So I told you a story about how overall he'd collected over 2 million donors in 2016. That is a giant, enormous secret weapon that he has. Now, why is it secret? It shouldn't be secret. That should be politics 101. If you're a political reporter, you should be like, well, okay, now here's a number of factors, and a huge factor is going to be this donor base that Bernie Sanders has that almost no other candidate has. And to be fair, the New York Times did a good story that I quoted on that, but almost no one else talks about that. And New York Times does that one story, but the rest of their political reporters conveniently forget that, because in their groupthink, there's no conspiracy. It's just in their groupthink, they think every single one of them thinks the same thing that Anna heard in that podcast, which I also predicted ahead of time. NPR, New York Times, CNN, etc. They believe that Bernie Sanders has no chance of winning, and it's hilarious. So that's why they get surprised every time. Dude, the guy's got 2.5 million individual donors. What did you think was gonna happen on the first day? I told you that it would be a monster haul, and it's a monster haul. Well, of course it is.
He's clearly got a chance of winning. I mean, you'd have to be very ignorant, very dumb to not think that he has a chance of winning. I think a lot of people's concerns, and I share this concern, is that if he did win, he would be 9 years older than the oldest president ever. Which is not something to sweep under the rug. Age is one. There are 3 requirements. I said 3. There are 3 requirements to be president, and age is one of the 3 already. There's a minimum age.
So, yep, go ahead.
So the concern, I look at it, he'd be 79 when he won. If he serves 2 terms, which that puts him at 87 years old at the end of it. By the time my grandmother was 80, finding her keys was an all-day event. So I am concerned for that aspect of it.
For me, what's important is his physical health and whether or not he's mentally sharp. And I will say he's mentally sharp. No, I get it, I get it. But here's the thing.
I'd love to cross that bridge when we get to it.
I know, that would be wonderful, but I gotta jump in quickly. So that is a common argument that you get from people who say, no, we can't have Bernie, he's too old.
Sure, I'm common.
But then no, that's not what I mean. But those very same people, and I don't know if you fall under this category, will then turn around and encourage Biden to run.
Well, that's silly because Biden is, what, a year younger.
Right.
Elizabeth Warren is, what, 8 years younger, I believe?
I think so.
Around 7.
Yeah, which is already pushing it. I think there are only, if I looked correctly, there are only 7 US presidents in history that have lived past the age that Bernie would be the day he was sworn in. which is, and I understand life expectancy has changed, but that includes recent ones as well. And so there is an aspect of how in touch will he be? And believe me, I was a huge Bernie supporter in 2016. Now, here's the thing I ask of people who are fervent for Bernie. If he does lose the primary, don't be dumb and then vote for Trump, which is what happened with some people.
No, Steve. So look, let me just
I've had people at my shows who've talked to me about it.
No, of course. There's a certain percentage. So we've actually, the Washington Post did a good story about this. I think Christopher Ingram, it was a great reporter actually that's at the Washington Post, about the numbers about 12%. But what he realized when he broke down the numbers was that 9 of the 12, 9 were Republicans who had crossed over to vote for Bernie in the primaries. So they were already Republicans and he was going to win them over.
But that doesn't change.
Hold on, but give context.
Okay.
Hillary Clinton voters in 2008, 25% of them voted for John McCain and against Obama.
But
so
not
it
just,
happens every time.
But not just Clinton. Gary Johnson, who a libertarian and a socialist are the two furthest possible things on the political spectrum. That is, they believe the opposite things when it comes to government intervention. And so for someone, all I'm saying is, I look at it this way, all right? I'm a baseball fan, all right? Big Mets fan from New York, love the Mets. Hate the Braves, have to hate the Braves. But if the Braves are ever in the World Series against ISIS, go Braves. So if you support Bernie, and that's great, good for it. I like him a lot, I've always liked him. He's been on the right side of history his whole career. However, if you support Bernie and he loses, don't go to the dark side.
Okay, so look, the great news is that there's a whole year before the first vote even happens. So you will get to see with your own eyes if Bernie has mental acuity, right? He was on this program just yesterday. Did anybody think that he didn't seem incredibly sharp? No, nobody thinks that right now. So Steve, I hear you, but to say 10 years from now, what is Bernie's mental state gonna be? Are you kidding me? Look at Trump's mental state right now.
Yeah.
Right? I'll take Bernie at 78, I'll take him at 100.
Oh, I'll take this desk's mental state over Trump, but that's not what we're looking at in the primary.
Yeah, and so look, you're getting me revved up. I don't want to get into
part of why I'm here.
I don't want to get into a whole defense of Bernie Sanders here.
Like I said, I love him. I voted for him.
Yeah,
he's great.
Okay, and in fact, when I do the defense, I'm afraid I'm going to do some offense. So I'll just say this one last thing, and we got to go because there's so many stories, and I want to get back to the heart of this story. But look, the argument that Bernie Sanders led on all these issues, so he should step aside, is maniacal. So the argument that he's been on the right side for 40 years, so we should just cast him aside and go with a Johnny-come-lately who got to Medicare for all when it was 70% popularity is not convincing. So if you show me that the other candidates are more progressive, better fighters, smarter, etc., that's great. That's what a primary is for. Show me, right? Until I see that evidence, I know where Bernie is, I know what he's got, and so do all of these donors. So do 2.5 million people who gave him those donations.
And in fairness, in the last 10 years, there's only been one old white guy president in 10 years, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually want to jump in on that. So look, I get it, and it's about time that we vote for someone and elect
Also
someone who's not, a white male. But at the same time, I think that it undercuts and undermines the whole notion of diversity when you only look to that quality. And there is a little bit of that going on. No, but there is, whether you're joking or not, there is a certain group of people. I don't know what percentage of the electorate or what percentage of the Democratic base who believes no, Bernie is unqualified simply because he's a white male. I think that that's a very short-sighted way of handling the situation. And believe me, I want more diversity when it comes to our leadership. But I do think that what supersedes everything, including age and all of that stuff, is policy. And then I think second is electability.
Well, policy is very important. And I was called an ageist on Twitter for talking about his age, to which I said, would you vote for a 15-year-old? Then stop it.
Okay, but so Steve, I don't suspect that you're in this camp because you supported Bernie Sanders in 2016.
Yeah.
But the mainstream media overall, in mass, points to his age every single time. And I understand the reasons why you're saying that. But let us also note their hypocrisy, because they never point to it when it comes to Nancy Pelosi, who is older.
And also not running for president.
She's a Speaker of the House. That is one of the most important positions there is. But under your logic, shouldn't she immediately step down? She's just too old.
Well, no, I didn't say.
I mean, she's older than Bernie.
I didn't
My
say.
God, how you can't get older than Bernie?
I didn't say if Bernie was elected, he should step down.
Okay.
I said that when looking at that, it should be a consideration.
Steve, we have 435 people in the House.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. She doesn't have to be Speaker of the House. We have over 200 Democrats. Why is it her?
Did I support her for Speaker of the House?
That's why I said I suspect you're not in that camp.
Yeah.
But when the mainstream media does that hypocrisy of don't you ever dare criticize Nancy Pelosi, I'll preemptively call you ageist, even if you didn't bring up her age. But goddamn, Bernie's too old. I'm not having it. So that's my point of view. But back to this, in terms of whatever we think about the policies and who should win, who's going to win, and that is the heart of this story. If you are discounting him, as Steve said, you're crazy or dumb, okay? So you know what 600,000 of those donors did? They signed up for a recurring donation. So that means by the end of the year, he's gonna have another 6.6 million just from the people who signed up on day one, because those come back every single month. And then on top of that, I want to give credit to Kamala Harris because she raised $1.5 million when she announced, which is a huge haul for any other candidate normally, and that is about the same that Bernie Sanders raised on his first day in 2015. And so that's some great progress by Kamala Harris right in the beginning. But I got to do my job and tell you the facts. She actually spent a lot of money to get a list of potential donors on Facebook, which is politically savvy. So I'm not criticizing her. I'm just telling you the difference in approach. Okay. So and people gave Kamala Harris credit for $1.5 million raised, and they should. But now I assume, and a lot of have, they should go and say, wow, Bernie just quadrupled her on day one.
Look, to be fair, they are saying that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so I do.
And Wall Street Journal even said it.
Exactly. So I do give them credit for that. And by the way, just going back to the point that you made, and I know that you decided to come on a weird day. We're both in weird moods, so we don't need to be.
We're also not really disagreeing much.
We're not. Yeah. And I'm actually going to agree with you in the initial point you made about, just don't end up voting for ISIS, right?
Yeah.
So Ana Navarro had a brilliant quote. In fact, it should be in the history books. And she said, I would be willing to vote for a cactus over Trump. And that's what everyone's mentality should be. But with that said, but in the primaries, we need to fight.
How old's the cactus?
Okay.
Cacti can live for a very long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's exactly what I was gonna say, Anna. We don't have to vote for a cactus.
That's exactly right. That's why you gotta fight during the primaries, guys. Like, that's what I wanna do. I wanna make sure that we have the right person after this whole primary process is over. And then we don't have to worry about, compromising our principles by voting for someone that is considered the lesser of two evils.
What I love about this primary, this is the first time since I'm 39. This is the first time since I've been old enough to vote for a president that there's been more than one candidate in a primary that I've supported, which is great.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Me too. That is amazing, and not a great sign for our democracy. But at least it finally happened.
For moving forward.
At least it happened. Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.